Heyo everyone, DQDC here. I am here in Minecraft Java Edition 26.2 for episode 1 of season 2 of 5 Block Friday. For those of you who have been around for a while, and by a while season 1 was 4 years ago, this is a series where I try to create just different creations using 5 command blocks. Some of these are kind of vanilla plus feature type creations, and some are little demos of kind of mathematical novelties. So season 1, I did things like Conway's Game of Life or Langton's Ant with 5 commands, as well as things like a double jump enchantment for Elytra. So this season, there are 12 creations planned, starting with week 1 here, a little utility to help you place blocks in midair. So for each of these creations, I'm going to walk through what the commands do when they're all on, just kind of how the creation, what it actually does. And then the second part of the video will be a technical breakdown of what each command is and how they all work together. So with this creation turned on, I can take an oxidized copper golem statue and place it in my offhand, and then any other block in my main hand. And if I crouch, the little copper golem goes out into the world to show me the location of a structure void block that, if you don't know, you can take a structure void block and right click it with any other block, and it places the block in that structure void's position. So if I go outside here where there's a bit more space, I can place a block, and then I can do things like bridging without needing any supports. I can easily bridge off the side of a block without needing to sneak over the edge. And of course, I can get on a ghast. We have Gus and Gary, our happy ghast friends this season, but I can get on this happy ghast and climb up. I'm not going to take the time to climb up in the clouds, but you can climb up as high as you want and then just crouch and place a block. Just as a quick side note, the reason that I chose a oxidized copper golem is, first of all, he just looks like a great little helper. He's got his arms out. He's ready to grab that block for you to help you. But also because in vanilla, if you take a copper golem that's oxidized and lead it to a ghast or something to get it up in the air, if it does its final stage of oxidation in the air, it will turn into a statue, which is a solid block that you can place other blocks on. So it's kind of just a nod to the fact that there is a vanilla way to place blocks in midair that relies on the little copper golem. But that is pretty much it for what the pack does. So with that, I will head inside and we can take a second to look at how all of these commands work. Our first command here runs in a repeating command block, and it summons a snowball in the center of the target block, wherever any player that is holding the copper golem in their offhand is facing. We start by selecting all players, just because the details we're looking for are too specific for a normal target selector, so we have to use an inline predicate. This predicate checks the entity properties of the executing entity to see if they match certain values. The first check is an equipment check. So we check the player's offhand for an oxidized copper golem statue that is specifically in the star pose. The second check is for a player-specific check that they are holding the sneak input. Once we have selected our target player, we can then move our execution position to that player. Then we rotate our execution orientation to match the player's rotation, and then move our position again to match the player's eye position. Then we use this caret notation to move the execution position to 2.5 blocks in front of wherever the player is facing. Finally, we align the position to the lowest corner of the block where the previous execution position was. Now that we have our target position, we can summon our helper entity Snowball. So this summons in the middle of the block that we are looking at. We have a custom tag that will be used in other commands to reference this Snowball. This item here controls what the item that the snowball appears as is. So we set it to be the oxidized copper golem statue in the star pose. So it will always have that appearance, even though it is a snowball internally. Then we set no gravity on the snowball to be true. This will disable gravity for the snowball, and because the snowball is not moving, none of its collision detection will ever run. Finally, we set portal cooldown on the snowball to 2 ticks. This is just a useful little internal timer that we can use without doing any extra command. So we can check if this portal cooldown is now down to 1 or down to 0 to run different commands, which we'll see in a second. Our next command is a lot smaller, and its goal is to replace air at the position of our snowballs with a structure void block. We start by targeting all snowballs that have our custom tag and that still have a portal cooldown of 2. So this will be the snowball that was just summoned by the previous command block. We change our execution position to be at the snowball that we've selected, and then we check if the block that the snowball is in is currently an air block. The little hash here means that this is a block tag, so we're actually looking for normal air blocks as well as cave air and void air blocks, which are just different types of air that will spawn in different locations in the world. Finally, we just set the block at our position to be a structure void block. The structure void is a nice technical block that doesn't have any collision hitbox, but does allow you to place blocks at the position of the structure void by right-clicking, which is useful for this one specific use case. This third command here is here to do the opposite of the second command, and we want to replace any structure voids with air when the player is no longer looking at them. To start, we target all of the snowballs that have our custom tag, but which have a portal cooldown of 0 ticks. So this means the snowball has existed in the world for 2 ticks already. We execute at the position of that snowball, and then we run another check to see if there are any other snowballs with the custom tag, but which have not reached 0 ticks on their portal cooldown yet, in the same position or very close to the current snowball. Since the first block in this chain will summon a new snowball every single tick, this will mean that the player is still looking at the block if there's another snowball with a higher portal cooldown value in the same block. Finally, we check that the block we're in is still a structure void block, and if all those things are true, we set the block back to being normal air instead of a structure void. The fourth command here kills any of our custom snowballs that are no longer in a structure void. We start by selecting all of our snowballs that have the custom tag. We check at the position of the snowball, and we check to see if the block is still a structure void. If the block is no longer a structure void, it means either a block has been placed in that position, or because of the previous command, the player is no longer looking at that block, and we've replaced the structure void with an air block. Regardless of the reason that it's no longer a structure void, we then kill the snowball. The fifth command runs in its own repeating command block and is purely cosmetic. When the player is crouching, the copper golem statue disappears from their hotbar for a second so that it's never in their hotbar and in the world at the same time. To start, we execute as all players. We then run a simplified version of the predicate from the first command. In this case, we don't care about the player input yet. We just care about what item is in their offhand. Once we've confirmed that the player has the copper golem statue in their offhand, we run an item modifier on the player's offhand slot. This item modifier is actually a list of item modifiers that will all get run one after the other. But as we'll see in a second, they have conditions so that only one of these will actually run. Our first item modifier here has a condition that now runs the check to see if the player is holding the sneak button. If they are, we modify the components of the player's item so that it has an item model of air. This will make it so there's no an item displayed in the hotbar, though because it is being held in the offhand, the little outline of the offhand slot will still be there. Unsurprisingly, the second item modifier here has the inverse condition. We check the player's entity properties to see if they're sneaking, and we only run this item modifier if they are no longer sneaking. And if that is the case, we modify the item in their offhand to have the oxidized copper golem statue item model. And with that fifth command, that is it for this little mid-air block placer command block creation. If you enjoyed that concept or enjoyed the technical deep dive, I'd appreciate it if you considered leaving a like or subscribing, that you can see more of the command block shenanigans we'll be getting into over the next few weeks. And if you want to see next week's creation of a Hitomazashi stitch pattern generator with just 5 commands, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that next Friday. In the meantime, I hope you all have an amazing day, and I hope to see you all in the future.